Food. It's something that we need to survive. While we may have started off our lives on this planet eating what we could find and not be poisoned by, we eventually created a literal menagerie of items for us to eat. This is great because all of us have different tastes, desires, and palates that we like to satiate. But even with this diversity, there are some foods that aren't just different from others. They're way more expensive as well, to almost a comical degree. From the Payura chilensis to saffron and more, here are the 10 most expensive foods in the world. Number 10, gras. Foie gras is a food that just wants to sound fancy for fanciness' sake because it translates to fat liver. It's apparently something of a cuisine in France, but if you recall, they also eat snails on the regular, so what do they even know? What's more, this is the liver of a goose or a duck that has been fattened by a process of force feeding. Yes, they literally overstuff the duck or goose so that they can eat its liver later. What kind of monsters are these French people? Can we send the untitled goose game duck after them? I'm just saying, foie gras is ideally very firm and smoothly textured with a coloring of creamy white tinged with pink. Guess they like it to look nice and not just taste nice. It's often baked in a crust as a pâté, which may be served hot or cold. The pâté or pastry crust is then lined with jelly, and it's prepared with brandy, seasonings, and truffles. So clearly, it's not just the liver that you're eating. It's a bunch of other stuff as well. And hey, look, truffles. I already talked about how expensive they were. As for the cost, a mere pound of the stuff can be between $40 to $80. So you might have to judge for yourself whether or not you think it's worth it. Many don't, and are actually trying to get the process of making foie gras banned. I'm going to side with them for now. Number 9, goose barnacles. Why do we have to do this to birds? Save the untitled goose game goose. Why don't you calm down? Goose barnacles aren't exactly what you may be thinking. It's not as bad as the last entry, thank goodness. Goose barnacles, well, they're actually crustaceans that live attached to the hard surfaces of rocks and float in the ocean. It's a dangerous job to get them from the rocks, but some people are willing to do it. And this is why it's not the cheapest seafood that you're going to ever find, but possibly one of the best, depending on whom you talk to. While they aren't the easiest thing to get, they can be something that's very easy to cook. In fact, most recommend that you use water and salt to make them tasty, which is simple enough, right? Others claim that they taste a bit like lobster or clams, and clearly there's a demand for it as Portugal likes both getting them and eating them. And again, it's not actually something from geese, and that's something that makes me happy. Number 8, Matsutake mushrooms. Guess what? I'm going back to Japan, but this time I promise I'm not going to be talking about fruit of any kind. Rather more about mushrooms. These particular mushrooms are actually very easy to pinpoint in terms of why they're so expensive. First and foremost, they're a delicacy in Japan. And just as important, a lot of people actually want them. The problem with this, though, is that Matsutake mushrooms have a habitat to grow that's honestly rather small, and it's continuing to shrink all the time. So, as such, you can't get as many of them, and that drives the price way up. What may be a bit surprising, though, is that despite their rarity now, they've been enjoyed throughout Japan for over 1,000 years. Some even call it a potent symbol of the culture, showing just how much this particular mushroom means to the Japanese people. And as for the price, well, a single pound of these mushrooms can cost you nearly $300. Number 7, a Baro ham. Now, you may be surprised at this one because while some meats like steak from earlier can be made to be tasty and expensive, you wouldn't expect that to be associated with something as basic as ham. But this isn't just any old ham. It's an Iberico ham, which is one of the most distinct meat tastes in the world. What's more, the history of this is a bit mysterious, as it's believed to be the meat of the original pigs of Spain. The Iberico hog is big, with a very long snout and slender legs, and various factors of its anatomy, both in and out, allow the meat to be cured much longer, which results in a more complex and intense flavor. And as I've hopefully shown you by now, if there's a way to get a deeper flavor from something, people will want it and they will pay big bucks for it. For example, getting a pound of this ham can cost you about $200. Number 6, ayam cemani black chicken. Now, this one makes a bit more sense when it comes to being an expensive meat because there are people who go hog wild to make the perfect kind of chicken. Also that their eggs and meat can be as good as possible. The ayam cemani black chicken is one such example of tinkering, as this is a black chicken both on the outside and on the inside. And in its home of Indonesia, they claim that it's connected to the dark side, if you get my drift. But while this may deter some people, it's not a deterrent for most. Not the least of which is because some people don't buy this black chicken to eat it. They'll actually buy it to be a pet as well as a status symbol. People will actually get this black chicken to boast about how cool they are. And because they're a rare breed and are hard to make in terms of reproduction, there are only a few places that you can acquire them. So thus, the price for this blackbird is high. But how high? Well, getting 2 of them alone could cost you upwards of $1,000. Number 5, Quintessential grilled cheese. How much would you be willing to pay for the best grilled cheese sandwich that you've ever had? I'm not talking about one that you could easily make on your skillet at home. I'm talking about a quintessential grilled cheese, one that's made to be the best around. And if you're someone who would walk that path, then you need to head to a restaurant known as Serendipity 3, which makes you wonder what happened to Serendipity 1 and 2. And that's where you'll be served a grilled cheese sandwich that costs $214. But why is it so costly? Well, that would be because this particular grilled cheese has a little something added on, gold. No, really, they do put gold into the crust so that the crust is gilded. So if you've ever wanted to eat gold, and Lord knows we all do, here you go. Though to be fair, you need to order it 2 days ahead of time, so it might not actually be worth it. Number 4, Swallow's Nest Soup. I've showcased many unique food items that people are somehow willing to eat. But how about one that stands out even in this lineup? In China, there are people who would pay almost $1,400 for soup made from an edible bird's nest. Yes, real edible bird's nests are one of the most luxurious and expensive delicacies in Chinese cuisine. So much so, they are sometimes referred to as the caviar of the East. And yes, because bird's nests and fish eggs are clearly so comparable, right? Oh, and just to be clear, they don't just use the nests for soups. They also turn them into sweets and even jellies. And did I mention that the nests are made from bird saliva? Because they are. Number 3, moose cheese. Now don't freak out. Moose cheese isn't what you might initially imagine. Moose milk is produced and sold across Scandinavia and Russia and is considered a delicacy in several regions. Some people, especially those in Canada, use this milk to create a unique type of cheese called moose cheese. However, the process of both extracting the milk and then producing the cheese means that it becomes quite expensive, fetching up to $500 per pound. Who would buy such a cheese, I inquired, but those who did wish to remain anonymous. Number 2, Iranian pistachios. Iran accounts for over half the global pistachio production, raking in billions of dollars from exports every year. You might be surprised to learn that Iran is the leading pistachio producer and exporter globally, boasting a production of more than 115,000 metric tons. What sets Iranian pistachios apart is their unrivaled taste, quality, and nutritional value. The country also offers the ideal climate for cultivating them. So, if you ever come across some pricey pistachios, it's likely because they are among the best in the world. Number 1, abalone. I tried to avoid discussing snails, but it was inevitable, so let's discuss abalone, also recently dubbed white gold. Found in ocean kelp forests, there are 56 different types of abalones worldwide. Despite their wide distribution, they aren't easily accessible. However, due to their unique flavor and texture, they have become a sought-after delicacy, often compared to the likes of caviar and Wagyu beef. This popularity has significantly increased their market price. Wild abalone can cost as much as $500 per kilo, a steep price for such a modest amount of meat. While many are willing to pay a premium for them, I'm content with my regular seafood for now. That concludes our journey through some of the world's most expensive foods. How many of these have you encountered or heard of before? If you've tasted any, what were your thoughts? Do you know of any other pricey foods that could have easily made this list? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to check out other intriguing topics on the screen. See you next time.